Well, age and heat is not going well along with me. Anyways, I've been topping some trees. It can be explained from all the brush you see around here. I top them so they will crown out like this, blot out eventually the sun, and cause a nice shade. But meanwhile they're doing that, they're letting through the light. And yeah, now I wanted to show you something I think is really cool. Yeah, you can do this with pretty much any tree you come across. The willow, as you see here, a little bit difficult. The rowan that you see with these leaves, very easy. The birch that you see here, yeah, if you do it during summertime, you might actually have some pretty interesting results. Anyways, those furthest away I took last year, and it shows perhaps if I zoom in here. You see it started to crown out quite a bit. That's the rowan over there. But most of the others here close by, these included, were taken a few days ago, and a few of them I took yesterday. I'm gonna need a taller ladder for some here because they got some pretty nasty crooks, and they're big enough to be actually quite dangerous if you have them headbutt you. Now, to the star of the show, growing straight on coal. This is the reason I was topping the trees over there, because they were blotting out the sun, and despite the shade, these guys have grown. Now, I made an earlier video showing how I planted these, and I really just threw a bunch of them and stomped them down. The difference was green and yellow peas, which as far as I know is only a matter of maturity. And the effect is indistinguishable as far as I can tell. I was worried that the birds would come and take it. I was worried that the cold snap that occurred after I planted and the layer of snow would actually drown them out. But yeah, they were a little bit soaked out. You see the seeds are right on surface here, most of them. Well, many of them already started grabbing and holding on to each other, which I think is perhaps one of the benefits of having them rather densely together. What is interesting about these peas is that they are grown straight on coal. This used to be an old coal pile that was granted a lot higher. I have been reshuffling further up because I like to have things grown on altitudes. And now they are getting more sun. So the evening here, when it starts to cool down a bit and I'm actually going to be able to do some meaningful work, I'm going to start topping some of those trees, but let the trees remain though. And thus allow the light to be coming in here throughout most of the day. However, the idea is not to give them full sun. They are after all cold loving crops. So putting them here in the shade seems to be actually a very good idea. And this goes to show that you can go straight on coal. What is important to notice here is that you need coal by itself will keep absorbing a lot of nitrogen until saturation point. So if you try to grow anything straight on coal, you are almost certainly going to fail if it is a nitrogen hungry plant like, say, tomatoes and the like. You know, one of these started coming a little bit early. But when it comes to peas, however, they have nodules that house bacteria that fixate nitrogen, and in exchange for the carbohydrates that the peas make from the photosynthesis, the microbes will be converting the air that is around us, which the plants are otherwise unable to use, the nitrogen, that is to say, into nitrates that they can use. And here you go, completely nitrogen depleted soil, fully possible to grow peas in them. It has good drainage and what have you. And when these peas eventually die, the nitrogen in the roots will be released into the soil. Of course, if you want to, you can just throw the peas, bury the peas into the coal to accelerate the process. Now, I have been very tempted to just go along with a zipper and just make a few lines through here, because you can eat the peas while they're growing and, later on, and have them straight in as a salad. They're edible as it is. This one seems to be hiding a little bit from the sun, so they might be getting too much, but we'll see. But the reason I'm not doing that for the time being is because we're expecting rain in a couple of days, and that means there will be more slugs and the stuff and the like. And I want to see how resilient they are to miscellaneous pests. So far, unlike other plants that I've noticed, there's absolutely no sign of insects eating off them, slugs chewing their way through, or what have you. So if they seem to do well against slugs, then I don't need to do any protective measures around here, and I can simply start thinning out and harvesting, and maybe chuck down a few branches of birch. You see these guys? Now, granted, it should be some dead branches that don't have the leaves, but they're thin, and that's very good. That's what makes it very easy for the those little arms you see here to grab around. And thus you have a natural trellis. And then you don't, it's very simple. You just chuck down, and then when you're done harvesting, you can just simply stomp everything right into the ground again. Rinse and repeat, because you have already plenty of these to just shove down. And together, they ought to survive much of the wind. You still have some brush rolls and stuff around to protect against the any stronger winds. Not immune, of course, but also this is a good way to kind of identify if there are plants that do well, that are nitrogen fixing. That is to say, wild plants that are nitrogen fixing, have a nitrogen fixing ability. So yeah, char farming is fun. This one broke. And now, just to finish, fun stuff you can do with the birch. So you can easily braid these guys into neat little arches. I made plenty of these around wherever, and it's just like you learned at kindergarten or whatever. You don't, you have them overlap over a center, and you keep on going, and that's pretty much it. And up there, one day I'll film something for you. But for now, bye bye.